Welcome to Dorking Out. My name is Sonia Mansfield, and I'm wondering, do I need exact change to ride the snake? Joining me is my podcasting sister from another mister and the co-host of Dorking Out, Margot D. Hello, my friend.
We're a sullen group, Ed. That's my favorite line from that movie.
You were so hilarious. We are dorking out about 1991's The Doors. It is directed by Oliver Stone, and it stars Val Kilmer, Kyle MacLachlan, Kevin Dillon, Frank Whaley?
Yep.
Yeah, Whaley. Meg Ryan, Kathleen Quinlan. I totally forgot she was in this.
Yep.
We got some Crispin Glover in there. We got some Billy Idol in there.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Madsen. Lots of people. You see Minnie Rogers. You see Debbie Mazar for like a second. Forgot that all these people were in this movie. Margot has many, many stories to tell about this movie, but let's just start with Margot, did you see this in the theater? Because I think you did.
Sonia, I did. The opening weekend. When was the opening weekend? March something? 2nd? 91?
March 1st.
March 1st. Okay, yeah, because I got our top 40 coming up. I was an extra in this movie. I was an extra in a few movies. My sister was in a bunch more than me. But I think her name was Natalie. Me and my friend Natalie were extras. And we were supposed to do 2 nights, and it's an outdoor concert. And it's not based on a real concert. It's much more of like an amalgam of Jim Morrison stuff. And we got through it was all night one night. We got rained on. And we didn't come back. So we got, we only did one day. I don't know if we ever even got paid, but it was really fun.
I think doing stuff like that would be really fun, just to be on the set and see how it works. And
yeah, and we showed up. It was out in Mountain View or something, and they had trailers full of hippie gear. Like they said, just come in jeans and a t-shirt, and they threw some shit on you. And the bands, they played a song that's terrible that I don't like. And I love the Doors, but I don't like the song, Not to Touch the Earth. And they play it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
But the band, Val Kilmer was great. Billy Idol came out and did a little work with the crowd. He was walking with a cane at the time.
Yeah, he'd just been in his motorcycle accident.
Yep. Oliver Stone came out and got his hero's welcome. It was sort of yes, it's me. And it was a lot of fun. It was overnight. And we'll talk about as the movie went through. But this is my little parlor trick with people. Do you know I was in the Doors movie?
That's awesome.
You can't see me. I'll post on TikTok and on Instagram. But
yeah, I really looked for you. But I've never done anything like that. I'm pretty jealous. One of my cousin's husbands works as a location scout for movies. And when they were filming Ant-Man and Wasp here, he invited me to come down and watch, and I really wanted to, and I can't remember why I couldn't go.
It must have been giving birth or something, because how on earth did you miss that?
I'm the truth is, I might have been doing chemo at the time, so maybe there was a reason why I couldn't go.
Pull the cancer card.
But I was really, but there was a reason I couldn't go. Something important, because if I would miss even a chance to glimpse Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd in person.
Yeah. But they used to film lots of stuff here in San Francisco. Nash Bridges was here all the time. And they filmed some of that movie Bedazzled with Brendan Fraser here.
I feel and I was living in the Bay Area late 90s into the mid 90s.
Yeah.
My parents moved out there when I was a teenager, and then I went to San Jose State. And I think there was just a bunch of movies that were filming there for some reason at the time. So I used to be on the roll call. You should just do it once, Sonia. Seriously, I think.
I know.
Find something that films on the weekend or something, just to, because when they need a crowd of people, they need all kinds of people.
Yeah, it's super fun. It would be super fun. I know. My ex used to do stuff like that long before I met him. He used to do extra work. And I'm I bet it was really fun.
Yeah.
I definitely saw this movie in the theater because it was playing at my movie theater. And I don't think my feelings have changed terribly about it. Like, I'm still pretty mixed on it. I'm not super into the Doors music. That might have something to do with it. I like their music. It's fine. It's just not my jam. That's okay.
Mhm.
You know, it's not for everybody. Please don't shit on me, everybody. And I think Val Kilmer's amazing in this movie. And I love Val Kilmer. Like, we did a whole episode on Real Genius where I talk about how much I love Val Kilmer. Like, I think...
And Tombstone.
Like, I think...
Yeah, we're supporters.
Yeah, and we have both seen the documentary about Val Kilmer, and he's real great, and I feel like he never got the parts he really wanted to be, like, the actor movie star that he wanted to be. But he's so good in this. I mean, where does Jim Morrison end and Val Kilmer begin in this movie? I don't know. He's real great. I mean, and everybody's is good in it. I think Meg Ryan seems like she's miscast, and then I watched the movie and I was like, I think she's pretty good.
She's okay. She's fine. But I watched this movie and every time I'm thinking, she made When Harry Met Sally, like just before this, or maybe a couple of films before this. Like, and it's just not a great part, with all respect to Pamela.
Yeah.
Who was, always kind of given the edit, like, oh, she was just some guy's girlfriend, when she actually was smart and funny and had her own ideas. I am a super fan. I do like the Doors. Maybe I shouldn't say super fan, because then people are going to question my bona fides on that. But I think it's great to see her. Yeah. And she's good in what she's given to do, but I for the life of me, I'm like, it just must be the Oliver Stone effect. Is this after JFK?
Yes, it is. Right, because this is like right after JFK, right? Because everybody's in it. Yeah,
and people who are good actors or were had gigs, like I had some name to them, have parts that have nothing, like barely even speaking parts. Like, there's Josie Bissett, she's in there. She would go on to Melrose Place. Yeah. Bonnie Bramblett was there. She plays the bartender. She was a famous singer. Delaney and Bonnie. Okay. But there's I
just want to tell you, I was wrong. JFK came out the same year.
Oh, wow.
In December.
So what came out before this? Like,
it would have been like Platoon, and
there was Platoon. What was after Platoon?
Sorry, everybody.
There's some reason that Oliver Stone could get like 50 people, notable people, to do a movie like JFK, which I love, and I'll talk about it one day. He's got like 50 people in this, like Billy Idol, who is a name. Like, there's a lot of people that I'm just sort of surprised, like, oh, Costas Mandylor, he was in a thing.
Oh, he did Born on the 4th of July right before
Tom Cruise. Yeah. So he must have had the shimmer of that over him, because there's people, and also people have been wanting to do the Doors ever since No One Here Gets Out Alive.
Yes.
The book came out in the early 80s. So that's been like, I think John Travolta tried to be Jim Morrison for a while. Like, there's a lot of dudes.
Yeah, like, well, they say Tom Cruise at one point wanted to do it. Brian De Palma.
Here comes little Jim Morrison on the mic in his leather pants.
They'd have to set up a little box for him to stand on to reach the microphone.
Break on through. I want the truth. Break on through.
Break on through. So a couple of directors, Brian De Palma, Scorsese, William Friedkin, at one point were all like, we're going to do the Jim Morrison movie. And I'm going to look up some of the different actors here. Tom Cruise, Johnny Depp, John Travolta, Richard Gere were all.
Yeah.
And then the one that I was like, this probably would have been really great is Michael Hutchence from InXS.
How much of a crush did you have on Michael Hutchence?
So hot.
So fucking hot. Like, level of Jim Morrison hot, who I find to be, let me make myself clear, I probably would have sex with Jim Morrison, even though looking at him, I'd be like, I would regret it immediately. Like, there would be something I'd have to get treated, because he's, He was he was a little slutty, but he's my type. Like you talk about like physically somebody being my type, and then I just like his music. Not all of it,
Yeah.
but most of it. It was to find somebody who could, because this is like a superstar you're in heaven,
Yes.
even if you hate the Doors. And let me make this clear. I know a lot of people hate the Doors. It doesn't give you a personality, but yeah, I get it. Some people don't like it. My brother John and I would argue about the Doors.
Luckily, I did not base my personality on the fact that I'm not really into the Doors.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. But he's a definitive personality. It's like Frank Sinatra or Elvis.
He's a rock star.
He's a rock star, and there's nobody like him.
Yeah, objectively, he's a rock star. You can,
He has a distinct sound. He has his voice is noticeable. His moves are his own. The look that he had. People try to imitate it, but he's like a Mick Jagger or Tina Turner. Like there's certain people, they're just superstars. They just have that it quality. And so to find someone who has it and can sing and can act, and then find a band of actors that are strong enough that they can be in a scene with him and they're not going to get washed away. It's brilliant casting.
Yes.
Who's Ray Manzarek? Who am I thinking of? Sorry.
Kyle MacLachlan.
Kyle MacLachlan. I mean, perfect Ray Manzarek.
Yeah, he had done Twin Peaks before this, so he was
fucking A.
I fucking love Twin Peaks, and so he was like in my cool book. Like anything that had Kyle MacLachlan was going to be seen by me. So I was all in just on that alone, and of course my love of Val Kilmer. But I think, Kevin Dillon is someone who
great.
He's really good. Like he was really good. Look, I'm not always a fan of Entourage. Like
no, it's problematic.
It's problematic. He was very good on Entourage. Like,
he's funny as shit.
He is funny as shit. And I think
he's in a movie that I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The movie I'm thinking of is Heaven Help Us. Did you ever see that?
Yeah, long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, he's good in that. He plays he's Matt Dillon's brother, which is not a fair way to describe him. I mean, he's his own person, but he plays the drummer it's a small band.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really just 3 people playing instruments, and then Jim Morrison's doing the singing and the dancing. So you have to have strong presence and ability to stand up to. I want to say this about Jim Morrison. I have a lot of issues with how he's portrayed usually.
Yeah.
Which is he's a douchebag.
That's my big problem with this movie is he's very unlikable. He's a pretentious douchebag through the whole movie, and then he's really mean to everybody, and it's hard to watch.
It's tough to watch, and he was let me say this about the Doors, and if you want to like put time to it, because I've been thinking about it today. I wrote nothing down, as you could probably tell, but I've been thinking, I've been gesticulating, I've been ruminating in my brain. The time that the Doors met, Ray Manzarek and Jim Morrison were in UCLA Film School. Jim was kicked out of his house in Florida, comes to LA to go to school. His dad was so high up in the Navy, he was the top person at the Gulf of Tonkin in 1964. He comes from a very strict military background. And that, if you look Jim Morrison for 2 seconds, you're like, this guy is not military grade.
Correct.
He's not. Right. So anyway, they meet, they form the band. The original, there's never been anybody else who was a Door. That was them. They start playing music in LA. They immediately get the whiskey within a few months. They're the home band. The president of Elektra Records comes and sees them. They record an album in 2 weeks, and then there's a billboard of them in Los Angeles, and then they're superstars.
Right.
This happens in 2 years. Time that we're in COVID, that's how long it took the Doors to become famous. That's insane.
Yeah, it's real fast.
And that's how talented they were, though. That's just how. And Jim Morrison, for all of this things you will say about him. And he was not always the nicest person, of course. He was an alcoholic. They're not always great. And I have alcoholics in my family. It's a very personal subject for me. He made it very clear that the Doors were a band and they would share publishing. Every song, if you look at the listing, it says the Doors. So they all were okay. Like after he passed away, they were all, but he was a band member. Yes, he was a famous person, but he was not a solo person, and he very much respected his band and his bandmates. And I think that's something that's not given enough. So should we talk about the movie?
Yeah, I want to say, like, it's so you're mentioning all this stuff about his father. No. It's one of the things I wanted to talk about was because Margot hosts another podcast called Not Fade Away, and she did an episode on Jim Morrison, so I went back and I listened to it. And there's all this interesting stuff about how Jim Morrison grew up, like who his parents were, what his family was like, that makes him who he is when this movie basically starts. And the movie is called The Doors, but it's really about Jim Morrison. And so I would have liked either they go all in on this is a Jim Morrison biopic and give us some of that stuff that you just mentioned, or give us some more about the band. Like just watching him like drink and do drugs and be shitty to people was not enough for me. I was like,
it's not fun.
No, I was like, I need more. I need to know, because he literally like it opens with like little Jimmy, sitting in the back seat of a car in New Mexico, and he drives by this car accident with his family where people have died, I believe, and it just kind of haunts him throughout the rest of the movie. But then years later, it's like, he's just walking along Venice Beach like 20 years later, and I'm like, well, what happened in between? To make him who he is. And he sees Meg Ryan, who looks beautiful, like out walking her dog. And she's got this like she's doing a whole ginger, thing, and she looks beautiful. And he just hangs around her outside her house, like at a party. Like, how long does he sit there? It looks like fucking 12 hours, like a stalker. Then he like climbs up a tree and kisses her, and like, all this stuff. It's, very romantic and very 90s or whatever. But I would have loved more about his family stuff.
I would have liked more about, and I'm not a poetry person. It's one of those things. Can I read you some poetry? I would leave it. I would burst into flames. I think I would just, it's not my thing.
It's like when you go to a party and somebody's like whips out their guitar and you're like, no, I have to, look at the time.
Yeah, and especially if they're sitting cross-legged and they're like, this is something I've been noodling around with lately. Let me know what you think. I'm out.
Yeah.
It's just certain amount of that performance stuff, and I'm just not into poetry. I know that's terrible to say. It's ignorant. It's just not my, I like Shel Silverstein. I like certain things.
Yeah.
I do like Sylvia Plath. Certain things I enjoy, but Baudelaire and all the stuff he's into, not at all.
Yeah.
But Jim Morrison, so he's his father's in the Navy, and not just in the Navy. He's the top Navy person. My brother was in the Navy. He'd be really mad at me that I didn't know what that meant. But he would be. But his parents are very intelligent people. He's being raised across the country because his dad's in the military. They're moved around a lot. And he has 2 siblings. You don't even know he has siblings. And he was close to them.
Yeah.
He's so intelligent that all he wanted for his graduation present, I think it was a collection of books. I want to say Baudelaire or something like that. He was very, very smart, like super intelligent. And every time he's on screen, when he's being intelligent, it's kind of like, oh, he's being pretentious.
Yes, that's totally how it looks.
And it's not. That's like, there is an interview I listened to of Jim, and it was like PBS had a series of tapes, and it was with people doing interviews. It was like Jerry Garcia and Bette Midler and Betty Davis and Jim Morrison. Somebody like, it's like original tape interview from somebody, and it was Village Voice. It was Jim Morrison. He was kind of chubby, and the writer was making fun of him for being chubby. Like,
so
damn, you have balls. You're
so
rude.
shitty.
It's shitty, but Jim Morrison, like, when he's not drunk, he's very affable and very polite and very curious and very sweet. He's actually kind of dorky. Like, he wasn't this super confident person. Like, he created a persona, and unfortunately he had to use alcohol and weed and psychedelics to kind of get into that space, because it wasn't there on its own.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, we're all supposed to think like he was always just this cocky, preening dickhead and treated everybody like garbage. And it's like, no, the band loved him. They thought he was great. It just, they didn't like what alcohol did to him.
Yes.
And I think like there's not enough. I think it's sort of in a lot of biopics, like, well, of course they start drinking and this is what happens. And it's like, well, let's kind of get into it with him. Like, what did it do to him?
They don't. And again, like what you just described is, in order to get into these Jim Morrison character that he needed to be to front a band, he needed drugs and booze to make it happen. They don't really explore that or make it a little bit more explicit. I don't know, like, did I miss it that they make that? Because there is this thing that he even says, like, I'm really shy. Like, I'm a shy person. Like, and, they're performing in clubs and he's so nervous that he has his back to the crowd. Like, that's how nervous he is. And eventually he turns around and, I mean, I guess the like love and swooning, because the women in the front row of these shows are like it's like
you too.
Yeah, it's like the cartoon when we talked about Frank Sinatra and whatever, like the chickens where they're like, it's Frankie, and then they lay a million eggs. Like, that's what these women are like in the movie, in the front row of the Doors concerts. They're just like, ah, like, because I get it. Like, I totally get it. So maybe in a way that was a drug, but they don't, and I don't need them to like explicitly say it. I don't need him to say, I need the booze and drugs to be Jim Morrison, the leader of the band. Like, he doesn't need to say it, but something that,
I mean, it's mentioned, like, so the Doors get signed. They're famous right away. Like I said, it was 2 years.
Yeah.
And then they made like how many albums? Like 4, 5, or 6 albums. And then they're done within a few years. It's a very short period of time. And then he goes to Paris and then he dies. Or did he? But that's another conversation.
Spoilers.
But along the way, so there's the women in his life, which is there's Meg Ryan as Pamela, and then she died of a heroin overdose. She was considered his spouse, but there was another woman, Patricia Connealy, who was a writer in New York, a ginger, and she had a Celtic ceremony with him, which was real.
Yeah.
But she was a big deal at the time as a reporter. Like, she was a legit reporter and was also legit in love with him, and said he never really drank around her. She didn't like drinking. And he was very different. Like, a lot of people say, like, when he wasn't drunk, and he was super drunk sometimes. He definitely had a problem. There were no sober coaches back then. There was no culture of, okay, well, these are the people you hang out with that won't smoke weed, that won't do this, and you can still be creative. None of that's happening in 1969.
Right.
Like, you're on your own if you've got a problem. Like, you go to AA with the old folks, but there's nothing else.
It's so interesting because there's still, like, I know that, like, we have these things now, and we have AA, and we have, like, definitely, like, there's a recovery, like, wellness culture that people can get into. But in general, like, everything is still, like, booze, 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 booze.
Yeah.
Like, and by the way, this is a happy hour show, and Margot and I are having rosé.
You're both imbibing.
But, like, think about how hard it would be even now to, like, with all this kind of support around you, to still quit when, like, everything you watch is like everybody drinks, like, all the time. You're surrounded by it all the time. It would be hard.
And you're so shy. And his father and mother, people say, they didn't practice discipline of, like, spanking or punishment like that. It was called dressing down. It's called dressing down. It's a military term. And what that is somebody basically getting in your face and fucking screaming at you.
That sounds like a nightmare. I think I'd
Which-
rather be spanked.
I'd rather be spanked. I'd rather be sent to my room. It's so demeaning. And it's something like generals do to their officers
Yeah.
to keep them obedient, but like to scream at a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old that way. I mean, you're going to raise a very angry person that
Yeah.
doesn't know how to manage, which I think that's a part of it. And I think, and also what is a part, it would have been interesting. And his father was super intelligent as well, was that he sent the album to his parents. He didn't send the album to his parents. Like he had an argument with his father and said, his father was like, I thought you were going to film school. Like, why don't you graduate and make a movie? And Jim's like, no, I'm going to be in a band. And his dad was like, you can't sing. What are you even talking about? Your poems are terrible. You're going to fail. What is, like, his father completely demeaned and just demoralized him.
This is all like huge insight into Jim Morrison that this movie completely lacks, because in the movie, he's in UCLA Film School. They're showing his movie to the class. The class hates it except for Ray. And Oliver Stone is playing the teacher. And he gets like a little bit of criticism and he's like, peace out, I'm out of here. Like, he quits the class and you're like, what a dick. Like,
what a baby.
Yeah,
you
can't take any criticism.
But it wasn't that. It was that his father raised him to never speak out. When you do that to somebody, they learn to not say anything and they hold it all in. And then this may get personal for me, but then like when you're an adult and you're trying to speak up for yourself, you don't know how.
Yes.
You don't have those tools. So Jim is like, he told his parents, this is 1964, 65, right? You have a phone call. That phone call is expensive. If you don't have your own phone, you got to call collect or something, and then explain to your parents, your dad, who just like is in the Vietnam War, like a total square, but also powerful.
Right.
I'm going to not be a filmmaker, which they could almost agree to. I'm going to be a rock star, which they think is terrible. And then somebody in the family found a record, I think, and sent it to the parents. Like, I think this is Jim. This looks like him on the cover.
Like,
and the parents,
can
you imagine? And he was very, by the way, close to his siblings. Like, he kept in touch with them, and they get very upset about this movie. By the way,
it sounds like everybody.
Everyone was in with Oliver Stone because he was like, I'm going to be like it, because he just did Born on the 4th of July. I'm going to be respectful. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you the truth. All of these people that I mentioned were part of the movie, including the band, including Patricia Connealy, everybody. And then he shit them all to do his version of what it is. Jim's father listens to the album, doesn't get it, thinks it's stupid, writes his son and says, you are not really achieving what your talents are. You need to quit now and do something else. And Jim was so devastated because he thought this was the best work. This was like the best thing he's ever done. And he said, I'm not going to talk to him. Now, he's 23 or 24. You could outgrow that. Like, if he had lived longer,
right,
they could have had, I think, an understanding. At some point, his dad's got to realize, like, and he did later, his father said, my son was incredibly talented and unique. He also would not compromise. And I think the military part of him, the military man, respected that.
Yeah. You're nailing it, by the way.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, you're nailing it, because the idea that, like, if he had lived longer, he could have got past this. He could have worked it out. Like,
yeah.
As someone I'm taking a creative nonfiction writing class right now, and I'm writing a lot of stuff about my childhood. I don't know what I'm ever going to do with that, but it's good to explore.
Sure.
My relationship with my father is completely different now than the one I had back in the day. And it's because I've lived long enough, had the experience to grow up and, I don't know, work it out or talk to him or see him in a different light, and so is he, to be honest. Like,
right.
So yeah, they're all things that I'm like, I wish these things were in here, because all it is just like concert to concert and like drunk fighting in between. And then like sporadically we see like an actor that we know playing somebody, like Crispin Glover shows up playing Andy Warhol, and like Paul Williams is his PR agent. And I was like, oh my, holy shit, it's Paul Williams. You know, like Mimi Rogers shows up as a magazine photographer, and she's portrayed as the person that takes this very famous photo of Jim Morrison. It turns out
the lion pictures.
Yeah, which apparently that photographer did not take those pictures. You know, whatever. But like I would have loved so much of what you're talking about if it had been in here. And would it have made it like every other biopic? I'm like, maybe, but it needed it. It needed what you're what it's those things it's missing. It needs it.
Because he had a lot of heart to him. He was speaking very passionately, and it's not here. He mimics. I mean, I'm not going to say mimic. That's not fair. I mean, he's really giving a performance.
Yes.
He's really, because Val Kilmer can sing. Val Kilmer can dance. Val Kilmer is a very exciting performer, and he did a lot of theater. He knows how to work with a crowd. He knows how to present on camera. But like we're saying, it's like he's in New Haven, now he's in Miami, now he's here. And it's in my show, I talked with my friend Andrea, who saw the Doors back in the day, and she was like, they were fucking amazing. She said they were really a good band. There was a reason why they made other albums. There's a reason why some people still listen to them today, and some people like go crazy that anybody would want to listen to them. There's something there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's exciting. So let's talk about my scene.
Yes.
And my scene. And it's the scene where Jim, and I also think the Native American imagery probably we wouldn't do now so much, or would be handled a little more thoughtfully. Yeah. It's kind of, it's a little whatever, but
it's a little heavy-handed.
Oh, very heavy-handed.
Like, when I say a little, I mean a lot.
If they go by a car accident, and then Jim Morrison said, this old Native American dies, and I saw him die, and his spirit inhabited me. And I always bought that. I'm like, oh, okay. The adult me that's like twice that age, I'd be like, really? The spirit can go into anybody, and it's going to the dumb kid in the back seat of this car
because he happened to be there, I guess.
Like not the dad who was like had, I don't know, but we're supposed to mean like that's one of those things, like his parents told him to ignore something that was important. Okay, Jim goes on stage, and Val Kilmer and the band, they're doing great. So we were filming this, and it was just doing the song over and over again, and then Oliver Stone came out at some point, but it was a second director who was really kind of doing this. And so they said, all right, folks, so keep looking at the stage and keep responding, but we're not going to have the band up there. We're just going to do a playback, and there's going to be special dancers behind you, but don't look at them. And so they had this fire pit thing.
Yes.
And so we're all reacting to nothing on stage. And then, of course, everybody looks over their shoulder like, what's going on? And it's a bunch of naked people dancing. On the stage, they were doing a playback, and every male crew member was standing on the stage staring at the people dancing naked.
I bet.
But I was there like, you know what? How much did they pay these people to dance naked? And maybe they would have done it for free. I don't know with these people. But I was sort of like, oh, come on. Aren't you professionals? Like, really? But then the best part was at one point, Billy Idol came out because we were all kind of lagging.
Billy Idol gets it.
Yeah. He was there. He got it.
My favorite line from The Wedding Singer. Billy Idol gets it.
You leave Billy Idol alone. I do love it when the band goes to New York, because I'm a New Yorker and I love all the mythology around it. Yeah. And there's this guy that played Ed Sullivan in like 20 movies.
That's his thing. It's like the dude who plays Manson, right? There's the dude who plays Manson, the dude who plays Ed Sullivan.
There's a guy, there's somebody like that plays him. and the band backstage, and he's like, couldn't we do Girl, We Can't Get Much Higher? Girl, we couldn't get much better. And then Ed Sullivan says, why don't you smile? Because you look sullen. And I love Jim Morrison just goes, but we're a sullen band, Ed. That always makes me laugh. Like,
See,
stupid
it always
hard.
makes me laugh when the guy's like, girl, we can't get much better. And then he's
Can
like,
you dig it?
And he's like, girl, why don't you bite my wire? It's so ridiculous. It's so, and of course, like in the movie, right? He says the line anyway, and he like emphasizes it because he's such a rock star. Not quite what happened in real life, but that's fine. It's a movie,
Right?
I'm fine with some artistic license. That's fine. But I love that. I do love that stuff.
I do love that stuff too. I mean, that's really good. I think the Last Doors album is really great. LA Woman, I think, is a great song. I super like it. I don't know if everybody does, but I like the scene filming them together. And I miss that stuff too. Like they were creative in the studio.
Yeah.
And they put out music that some people love and some people really hate, but it's interesting that they created it. Like it would have been.
Yeah. They sound like no one else.
Right.
That's amazing. Like
it is. I mean, yeah, Jim Morrison, I like anybody who's they're different alcoholics. Some people are very quiet. Some people become morose. Some people, they're just loud and then they fall asleep. And some people get into fights and are an asshole. I mean, there's just different ways it kind of comes out.
Which one are you? Which one are you?
I go to sleep. I go right to sleep. I don't get too loud. I definitely don't get into fights. Do you?
I get loud. I don't mean to. My volume goes up.
Your volume.
Yeah. And then I eat a bunch of shit and fall asleep.
For me, it's the slurring. I can hear myself slur, which is like the most embarrassing part of being drunk.
I hate that. That's
the worst.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in the movie, it's a lot of like, he gets drunk and then he did get drunk a lot. He had a problem.
Yeah.
There were times he was found literally in the gutter in front of a place and people had to get him out. It was that bad. He had an issue. But that isn't the sole part of his personality.
Yes.
It's what took his life. I mean, how his life left. There's a lot of different. He's not alive. Let me just. I'm going to just spoil that notion for you now. No, it would be fun if he were like he was just to show up somewhere and like, look, it was too much.
Yeah, he's chilling with Elvis somewhere.
Oh, that would be amazing. That actually would be really amazing. And Tupac. Now, they're gone, but I think he was on a losing battle with addiction. He really, and his best chance was to try to be a poet living in Paris and not be an American rock star. Like he really was trying to, and then ultimately it failed. But he really had a spectacular, amazing, interesting career, and his art is incredible. His lyrics are awesome and amazing and weird and sometimes pretentious for sure. But I think the music really sticks up for itself. I kind of will give a tip. I do like the ending in that they showed Père Lachaise, which is where he's buried. And they show all the nice, I don't know if you've ever been to Père Lachaise. I went there in 94. And it's just like that. Like you see all these beautiful old mausoleums. And then at the time, Jim Morrison's just looked like a ragtag sail, like a burnout mountain, just cigarette butts. And this movie introduced a ton of people to the music that they weren't familiar with before. So like this played at my movie theater. I would have been 20 when it came out. None of us were listening to The Doors before this. We were listening to our alternative rock station. Right.
We were listening to Live 105. We were listening to Depeche Mode and The Cure, and I don't know, maybe Nine Inch Nails was in there. I don't know. But then The Doors became the thing. Like everywhere I went, people were listening to The Doors. It was everywhere.
Right.
And it probably his gravesite probably became like a popular thing again, even up when you were there in 94, I would imagine.
Yeah, it became, so Jim dies supposedly at home, supposedly at a nightclub. There's different stories, but he's gone. He's dead. Nobody tells his parents. Nobody
Aw.
tells the band. I think Pamela called the manager, who flew out right away, but everybody found out via the news, which is terrible.
That's so shitty.
And we should say, so it's when did Jim Morrison die? Hey Google, when did Jim Morrison die? July 3rd, 1971. Okay. There was the Kent State shootings in May of 70. Jimi Hendrix dies August or September of 1970. Janis Joplin dies also. Both of them 27.
So sad.
Jim had his birthday in December, quits the band and says, I'm going to go to Europe for a while. I'm going to go to France. I'm going to be a poet now. And then he dies July. I mean, he's 27 years old.
That is
it's
so young.
It's so fun. I know some of you are really young and you don't get it. Like, it's so fucking young.
Yeah.
He had so much time ahead of him. But he dies and nobody really knew about it. And so Pamela was considered his common law wife. So she immediately, and his manager said, oh, just put him in Père Lachaise. And that was that. So Jim's parents and his siblings had no say in any of this. The band had no say in any of this. And the money was kind of divided up the way it was. But the father always felt, his dad, military man, he always felt bad about his son's grave being treated like an ashtray, which is basically what it looked like. So his dad came up with the money and they put up this beautiful stone that's on top of it to prevent that. And then it put like it's a Greek saying that it's not in front of me right now, but basically just kind of like Jim Morrison lived on his own terms. He was just somebody who shone brightly, which is beautiful to me.
Really, really kind of his dad, considering their relationship was so strained.
Yeah, I think it was after his wife died, like maybe he really was like in the twilight of his life. Like, what can I do? What can I do to show him? You know, and I think it's a beautiful sentiment. I think he was a very interesting person.
Yeah.
He was not nearly the asshole that everyone paints that brush with, and what seems to be what Hollywood wants to make. They always kind of make. I do like Wayne's World 2, where they bring Jim Morrison back, and he's a little more, and the naked Indian.
Yeah, that's one of the most frustrating things about the movie for me is. He's really quite terrible through the whole movie, and it's hard. It's hard to like him,
right?
And I don't have to like him. That I should rephrase that. I don't have to like him to think that it's a good movie or an interesting movie, but it would have helped. You know, his relationship with Pam was really shitty and hard to watch, and because we weren't seeing any of this goodness, I couldn't understand why she was still around. I'm like, is she still around just because she wants his money? Or, you know, they don't make it, it's not clear enough. And that's not Val Kilmer's fault. That's script stuff.
That's the script. I don't think they make enough of a case.
Yeah.
Of that. And that's right.
Yeah. And he's shitty to the band too, in the movie, I should say, in the movie. Like, there's a repeat thing where they're performing concerts and Jim Morrison starts like acting out. He starts like saying shit and throwing things and doing whatever, and you could see the band is like, here we go again. Now he's on his bullshit again. That frustration that these band members have, you understand it in the movie. But they don't. But they don't explore it.
No, they're kind of like they're not given their own characters. It's really sort of they're thinly drawn. Yeah, and he did it a lot. I mean, but like I said, he was he was an alcoholic. He was on drugs. He was very shy. And this was all new to him. Like all this fame and shit happened in a few years. The whole thing, this whole trial in Miami,
Yes. Yeah.
That whole thing where, you know, that was also just a shit show, and they don't tell you that. It was like they oversold the performance. There was not enough seats for people. They were really hot. It was at this airplane hangar, and he felt bad because the kids were being treated bad, and the band was upset with him, and he was drunk, and he was dehydrated. I mean, there's a lot of things that happened that it's very easy to then go like, did he take his penis out or didn't? Like, who cares? Like, it's sort of, I love, there's always this, there's a couple of films clips that I love. One of them is that the white straight teenagers that went to a door show and were very surprised to find out that drunkenness would happen. Like, I don't think teenagers should behave this way. Like, oh, go fuck off. Fuck you.
Seriously.
You go see Perry Como, baby. And then there's the one where the band shows up at the airport and they're like, your name and your occupation. Yes. And Jim Morrison just says, Jim. Jim. And he just smiles. It's like, aw.
And I like Pam's answer, actually. Pamela Ornament. Raymond
Manzarek, born 2339. Percussion. So good.
It is. There's good stuff in here. I wish they had decided that they were going to go all in on the Jim Morrison story and give us a little bit more to root for, I guess.
Yeah.
Not just like, here's all the fucked up shit he did, or here's the songs you like just a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's I was thinking about, after I finished watching this, I was thinking about another biopic that definitely I like, but definitely is problematic, is The People versus Larry Flint. And here is a character who is really fucked up and does fucked up shit. And they still like found things about him to make him feel sympathy. You could feel sympathy for him. Yeah. And his relationship with Althea, which is played by Courtney Love in the movie, or his relationship even with his lawyer, there was just stuff there that you could see why people are around him and put up with his bullshit, because there's in the movie, I should say, because I don't want to speak for what Larry Flint is like in real life, but in the movie, there's some good stuff there that keeps people around. And this movie doesn't have that. It's just, he's just insufferable and self-pity and constantly
pretentious.
Yeah, and pretentious and constantly, anytime you criticize him, he's out on a fucking ledge, literally on a fucking ledge, and she's like, get back in here. It's so frustrating to watch.
The whole thing in the desert with the LSD.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes on forever.
Yeah.
It's so long. There's just so many more places. It would have been fun to be. I like it when they come up with songs. I like it. I'm always a sucker for that. There's a Beach Boys TV movie where I swear to God, at some point they're at the beach, they're young, and there's a girl that's going by, and someone goes, well, she'll have some fun. And then someone says, till her daddy takes the D-bird away. And then they go, ooh, and they run in and write the song.
That's so stupid. That's what that movie Bohemian Rhapsody's like. It's
my God.
It's literally somebody stomps their foot or whatever, and they're like, wait a second. We are the champions.
Yeah. With this, it's just I want to do my thing. I'm going to be really drunk. And then it's what is this shit? And then the closing credits, they're playing LA Woman, and it's it looks like they're having a great time, and it's grooving.
But they don't show any of that.
No.
They never show any of that. They never show them having a good time or
enjoying it.
Yes, exactly.
And he liked his downtime, and he did enjoy it. I mean, he was the focal point, but they were never jealous of him. They they got it, but like it was a band. They truly respected each other. And
Yeah.
there's like, and it's definitely not what's happening here. It's just Oliver Stone just drooling over Val Kilmer playing Jim Morrison.
Right. And Oliver Stone frustrates me. He now I'm very indifferent to Oliver Stone, but I was more of a fan back in the day around this time because I thought Platoon was really good. I thought Born on the 4th of July was really good.
They're great movies.
Yeah, I thought this one was, it was like, I liked it. But I wasn't like super into it. And then JFK comes out later in that year, and I really liked JFK. Like, I thought it was super interesting. Like, tons of characters. Like, every actor was in it. I was like, I was all in on JFK. I thought it was really great. But like Oliver Stone himself he's like Jim Morrison in this movie. He's a pretentious prick.
A twat.
He's a twat. Yeah. That's a great word for Oliver Stone.
He's such a twat.
He's such a twat. And like, there's like, I watch his movies and there's these like nuggets where I was like, that's dope. That's awesome. Like, this is so interesting. And he definitely has something to say, and he has a really good, like a really interesting perspective, and I like it and I want it. But then he does shit, what's in this movie, that is just like fucking jerking off to me. And I'm like, ugh. Whatever. Like,
yeah.
That's what I think about Oliver Stone. And like, what's the other one? Natural Born Killers. That I know like people love, and I'm like, there was things in it again that I was like, oh, this is so interesting. And then there was other parts where I was like,
no, Sonia, he's satirizing. Don't you get it?
Oh my, let me tell you how much I fucking loved it when a dude in the 90s said, I don't think you understood, blah, blah, blah. I would lose my shit. I'm like, I hate that. Oh, I just don't think you got it. Oh, I got it. I just don't like it. Like,
it's not well done.
Yeah.
It's not a very interesting point of view.
Yeah. I was, because I worked at the movie theater, I tended to be surrounded by people who loved movies, and sometimes they were like really pretentious film school people, and they were like, well, I don't think you get it. And I was like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
And I'm getting what you're putting down right now, too, which is obscene hand gesture.
I will say that you were saying nobody was listening to it. I don't agree. I think The Doors had a moment in the early 80s when No One Here Gets Out Alive, but it could just be I lived in a burnout town in Pennsylvania, and that was like the hot thing. But it was this resurgence of, he'd been dead for 10 years.
Yeah.
Or was he dead? And then and this book comes out, and it's Danny, oh God, it's on my shelf. And what's
it called again?
No One Here Gets Out Alive. Danny Sugarman. He was 15 or 16. He was their PR person. The Doors ran things. And he wrote this book about it. And then I think he passed away to cancer. But there's stuff Jim did like that was super fucked up. Once again, he was an alcoholic. Alcoholics, it's not like I'm giving anybody a pass, for sure. Bad behavior is bad behavior. But alcohol can really fuck you up. And especially when you mix it with other things.
Yeah.
And if he had gotten sober in Europe, and maybe had, I in my fan fiction, it's like he mellows. The band, just makes, they all just do their own thing, and they make money from the Doors, and they're all fine. He makes up with his dad. He and his dad have an understanding, and that's like my fan fiction for him. And as somebody like who lost her brother to alcohol, I have a lot of respect for his siblings and a lot of empathy for them.
Yeah.
And they talk about him, and they're just like, he wasn't just this drunken loser.
Yes.
He was a full-fledged human being, and also just super, super smart. And I don't think that's shown enough about him. He was a very intelligent person and very interesting. And it would have been interesting to see him look at the world when MTV becomes popular and then
Mhm.
when grunge becomes popular. I think it would have been, if you were like an elder statesman type, what he would have said versus what Mick Jagger has to say, or Pete Townsend,
Right.
which we've heard 1,000 times because they're still alive, by the
Yeah.
way. That is one of the perks of being alive.
Right.
Right. That's all. Okay.
You
I think
know-
I've said everything.
You know, I'm thinking about this movie and the people around me in 91 who really liked it. And I wonder, like, I'm not stereotyping. They were really into, like, the drug scene.
Yeah.
There was, like, they were, like, really into pot, I'm not saying, like, pot's so hardcore, but, like, they did LSD, mushroom, whatever. Like, they did all that stuff, and they really loved the Doors. And, like, and I would see people who would come and see the movie over and over, and I was like, look who's tripping balls, and they're looking back, seeing it again. Like, it was definitely attracting that crowd. And I'm like, was Oliver Stone trying to make a movie for people who were high in one way or another? And maybe the movie works for them on a whole other level.
I think I don't like hallucinogenics at all.
Same.
You and I have had an off mic
Yeah.
conversation.
That's
about
not my
that.
jam. That's not my
Not
jam.
my jam
No
either.
judgment, by the way.
My brother John was a Deadhead, and and I love the Grateful Dead, but some of those songs that I like on the album, and then he would play the live version, which is like 10 times longer. And I'm like, what are you doing when this is going? He goes, oh, we're dancing, you're grooving, you're hanging out. There's a certain amount. I think there's also, with jazz musicians in the 50s and 60s, heroin was a part of it. Drugs became a part of it. There's this certain aspect of experimentation with music. And when there's a jazz element, which is where there's improvisation. So this person's going to play for a few bars, and then this person's going to play, and it's supposed to be a little bit different every night. Woo. And so you got to be there, and you got to be in the pocket, you got to be in the groove, and everybody has their way to do that. And some people, they only want dance music, and that's like, it's like emo or just electronic dance music, EDM.
Yeah.
Like, I can only take so much of that. And then, especially when it's that, that continuous beat. For me, it doesn't work, but for somebody else, it's calming.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for some people, like acid rock and stuff like this, they're really long storm songs, like Riders on the Storm and stuff like that. I'm like, nah. I like the punchier hits.
Well, I'm going to ask you, what is your favorite Doors song?
The Wasp. It's a really dope song. I used to play it in my classes.
I'm writing this down. I'm going to listen to it.
The Wasp is like my fucking jam.
All right. I like People Are Strange. It's because I'm fucking mainstream.
Because people are strange. But they are strange. And there's a great version by Echo and the Bunnymen on the Lost Boys soundtrack. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good song.
That's the other time people were into the Doors, because there was the remake, but then people discovered the original. So there definitely was like a resurgence of Doors. You're right.
They're a very California band too. Especially LA. I think they're a very LA band.
And once again, like, I'm not like a super fan, but like, when you hear the Doors, you're like, that's the Doors. And that's amazing, because there's a million bands out there and they sound the fucking same. You could be your fucking Candle Boxes and your fucking Nickelbacks and your Silverchairs and all that. By the way, those bands are fine, but they all sound the same. They sound the same to me. The Doors sound like the Doors. The Cure sounds like the Cure. Like, they have
the Stones sound like the Stones.
Yes, that's amazing. Not everybody has that.
And Break On Through is a great song too.
Yeah, that's
Break
a really
good.
That's
a good one.
It's a good one. They had a lot of hits.
Yeah.
But surprise, like, 50 something year old white lady drinking her rosé likes People Are Strange.
It's a fun song. I mean,
it is a fun song. That's why I like it.
Yeah, and People Are Strange.
Word. I made a list of other musical biopics.
Oh, let's hear it.
Okay. Bohemian Rhapsody.
I do like Bohemian Rhapsody. I know what's wrong with it, but I like it.
I did not really like it, but I like Freddie Mercury very much.
Yes.
Rocket Man.
Love Rocket Man.
I still haven't seen it.
It's good. I mean,
and I think I might watch it because I really like Elton John. Maybe I'll watch it tonight. John.
Yeah, I like it very much.
Okay. I heard it's better than Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. All right. Selena.
I like Selena, and
Selena's
I'm not into her
so
music,
good.
But it's so good, and Jennifer Lopez is great.
She's so great. Have you watched the documentary about Jennifer Lopez?
Oh yeah, we have to talk about that sometime.
I'm like, wow. I watched it. Maybe we'll do that under what else we're dorking out about, because I watched it as well. I really like Selena. My sister loves the movie Selena. It's like her favorite.
J-Lo is a superstar.
Total superstar. La Bamba.
Richie!
That movie's actually really pretty sweet.
It's good.
It's very sweet. The Runaways.
It's a disappointment. I thought that would be so much better. They had great people in it, but no.
Such good people in it. I was also pretty disappointed. What's Love Got to Do with It?
Good movie.
It is a good movie. And
intense, though.
Angela Bassett is chef's kiss as Tina Turner. So good. Ray.
I have never seen Ray.
It is the exact template for biopics.
I like Ray Charles, too. I like his music, but I was kind of like, this seems sort of by the numbers.
It 100% is. And a lot of these movies are, by the way, and you could also watch Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox one with
that's a good one.
John C. Reilly.
Yeah.
As the lead. So funny. So good. I can't. Sometimes I'm like, I forget that it's comedy. A few more. Straight Outta Compton.
Great movie.
I still haven't seen it.
Good movie.
Which is stupid because I think I might be super in. My sister's like, how have you not seen that? I would love it the most, is what she tells me. So I need to watch it. Walk the Line.
Is that the Johnny Cash one?
Yes.
Yeah, I liked it fine. I've never seen it. I've seen it in the movie theater, and that was that.
Exactly. And I
like Johnny Cash.
I'm ending this with your favorite. Great Balls of Fire.
Me and Myra are getting married. We're getting married.
Married my 13-year-old cousin. Yeah.
Do you want to hear the top singles?
Yes, I do.
For March 2nd, 1991. This is the U.S. top 40. So
I can't
number
wait.
10. Oh, man. Whew, slice of life in America. Number 10, Gloria Estefan, Coming Out of the Dark.
That's fine.
Do you remember? She had her bus crash. And
yes, that's right.
LL Cool J, Around the Way Girl.
Fucking I was just listening to that song yesterday. That song is awesome, and he's hot. He's still
hot as shit.
He is still hot.
Oh, save yourself. There's some hot here. Sting, All This Time.
I loved just Sting solo stuff back in the day.
I do too. I don't know this song. Styx, Show Me the Way.
I don't know. I don't know. I might know it if I typed it into YouTube, but. Mm-mm.
Speaking of hot, Chris Isaak, Wicked Game.
Smash. Smash.
Like fan myself. He was so hot.
So hot in that. So hot.
Yeah. C&C Music Factory featuring Freedom Williams, Gonna Make You Sweat.
That song is ridiculous.
Shit.
And so catchy. So catchy.
Also, Celine Dion, Where Does My Heart Beat Now? Love Celine.
Yeah. She's amazing.
I don't remember this. Timmy T, One More Try.
I don't.
No, not
that
ringing
sounds
any bells.
Familiar to me. I think it's R&B.
Mariah Carey, Someday.
I loved Mariah Carey's first album. It had Someday, Vision of Love.
Yeah,
I was into it.
And number 1, Whitney Houston, All the Man That I Need. Oh
my
God, Whitney.
The voice. She had the voice.
She really did.
That one fucking hurt.
Yeah.
That hurt. I loved Whitney. Yeah.
Bobby Brown.
Remember that show Being Bobby Brown?
Yes.
And you got to see a side of Whitney that you were never seen before.
Oh, hell to the no.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
I miss her.
Yeah. All right. What else are you dorking out about?
I'm into Hulu this week.
Yeah, you are.
They just dropped a special about Victoria's Secret.
It's on my list. I was thinking about watching that tonight.
I watched that this afternoon. It's 3 parts, Angels and Demons.
Tell me.
I might watch it again. It's great.
Yes. Yes.
It's so good. I worked in the mall in the late 80s, early 90s, and Victoria's Secrets and The Limited. Remember The Limited? I bought all their clothes.
Oh my God. I used to love The Limited. Loved it.
They had a sweater that like everybody they're all their clothes, like I loved them. And then Victoria's Secrets went from being like this boudoir place, and then it became all about their fashion show and the angel wings, and then Jeffrey Epstein's in this thing.
Oh my God.
It's true crime, and it's got just enough like early aughts, and all the celebrities back then, and it's American history, it's fashion history, it's about the Me Too movement, it's billionaires being shitheads, and we should all just like burn everything down and start over again. I really enjoyed it. I also watched Only Murders in the Building.
Ooh, I'm 1 week behind on it.
It's really good.
Yeah, I love it.
And that's pretty much it. And The Real Housewives Ultimate Girl Trip, which is great.
Which I am also going to be watching this weekend. I'm so glad to hear you say that Angels and Demons is good, because it's
really good.
I used to shop at Victoria's Secret back in the day, and I used to love their body lotion. They would upsell you on their body lotion. I loved that shit. I had the vanilla one and like this like berry one. I loved it so much.
Their actual underwear and bras I did not enjoy.
Yeah.
I at the time it was mass market and mass made.
Yes.
I mean, I came from an era where it was like, well, we're supposed to get poked in our chest all the time with metal that pops out of our bras.
So I remember I used to shop there all the time, and then at some point I went back there to buy new bras, and every single bra was like bedazzled and said things on it, like on the side. And I was like, I don't need a bedazzled bra. Literally every bra in there was bedazzled.
There's a point in the documentary where they're like, so they saturated the market, and it's all thin white women, basically, like as their models. And then they're like, then they decided to go younger. And then it's the pink line.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I mean, you're going to vomit. It's just like, oh my God, that's right. We all knew this was happening. Mm-hmm. We all knew it was basically wrong. And we all just kind of went along with it because they were always successful.
Yeah. I bailed on them probably in my early 30s. By then, I was like, peace out. I'm done with Victoria's Secret. But yeah, I was never sold on a bedazzled bra.
I went to a proper bra person, like in the Upper East Side, New York. You know, those old ladies with their tape measures and shit.
That they wear around their necks. Yeah.
Right. And I was like 3 or 4 cups bigger than I thought I was. And they're like, no, this is what a bra is supposed to feel like. I'm like, I don't know. This feels old ladyish. When you get a proper bra, it changes everything.
Game changer.
Like, it is a game changer. And like, but then they were like, yeah, you got to do this at least once a year. I'm like, what? Yeah. Like, that's what you have to do. Like, your size changes all the time.
Yeah.
But
by the way,
I just those early, oh God, Victoria's Secrets, those bras, like that underwire that would just pop out.
Yes.
Stab you.
Yes.
Ugh.
It was awful. I won't wear, well, I don't need to because I'm a breast cancer survivor with a vasectomy. I don't need to wear bras if I don't want to, but I would never wear an underwire. I ditched underwire years ago, like before all of that. Yeah. Like
that's some shit we were sold.
What are we doing?
What are we doing here?
Seriously. I watched, and you probably have already watched all of it, Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey.
Yeah.
On Netflix.
Oy.
I'm kind of surprised how fast I got through it, considering how fucked up it is. It is fucked up. But they did the very smart thing of ending every episode with shit. I need to know what happens next.
Right. And then you have to watch the next one.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, it's about the fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's the fundamentalist Mormonism, basically, and specifically about polygamy. And the leader, Warren Jeffs, and how he would take really young girls and marry them off to gross old men. It is fucked up.
Did you get to the scene where they sent the teenage boys away?
Yes.
Oh my God.
They actually don't. That's actually one of my main criticisms was I would have liked a little bit more insight into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
and what happened to them. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. They're very focused on the women, which is fine. Like they're telling a story here, and it's an important one, and I'm glad they're doing it. I would have liked a little bit of insight into when that happened and how it happened, and there really isn't any. It reminded me of Game of Thrones, actually. There's a whole thing in Game of Thrones where this dude, like, did you watch Game of Thrones?
No.
Okay, well, then it doesn't matter. But
I couldn't keep up with it.
There's a gross dude who just surrounds himself with women and has sex with all of them, and if they have a baby boy, he leaves the baby boy like in the wilderness to like be eaten by or taken over by the bad people. Anyway,
well, now I know why it was so popular.
It's hilarious. Show's hilarious. Oh my God, it's so fucked up. Let's talk about Halftime. What did you think about the J-Lo documentary?
I don't know why she's so pissed at Shakira. Or why she thinks
Shakira seems so sweet, by the way.
She does. You know, look, honey, honey, that's terrible. Look, hon, it was a good opportunity for you. I'm not as into J-Lo music as some people are.
Mm-hmm.
I like a couple of her songs really very much, and she's a great performer.
Yes.
I'd rather talk about her movies.
For sure.
And I also was like, wasn't she dating A-Rod this whole time? Like,
so I wondered about that too. Like, there is a talking head of Ben Affleck at one point, and that's who she's with now. And I'm like, that's not who she was with when she made this documentary. So did they like cut any A-Rod stuff and throw in Ben Affleck at the last minute?
At the last second.
Yeah, like, I don't know. What he says is very true about like the shit that like women in the industry put up with compared to the men, you know. So
yeah, and he's done some of it. He would know.
Yeah, exactly. No shit. I thought it was really interesting. Similar to you, she definitely has songs that I like, but I don't primarily think of Jennifer Lopez as a singer.
And I know she's successful, and some people really love it. It's just,
and
whatever.
Yeah, she is a very good performer. I see why people love her music. I get it. Like, there's songs I like. In general, it's not my jam. Whatever. Like, she's done a lot of movies that I really like. Yeah, you know, they could do a whole fucking documentary about Out of Sight, and I would watch it. Like.
And Hustlers. I loved Hustlers.
And she's so good in Hustlers. And there is a lot of stuff about Hustlers in this. And the whole idea of the documentary is she's getting ready for the Super Bowl halftime show. But she's also like on the Oscar campaign for Hustlers. And she, spoiler, doesn't get nominated. So I'm kind of surprised they kept all that stuff in.
I was glad.
But I'm glad they did.
Yeah. I really enjoyed Hustlers. I thought she was great in it.
Yeah.
There's nobody else I could think of that could do that part. that because she has to do everything in that movie.
Yeah.
Everything. And I think she's great in it. I find her very interesting. I just thought like her takeaway was, oh, Shakira was just one too many. It should have just been me. I'm like, I don't know. I kind of liked having Shakira there.
I thought Shakira did, by the way, I don't watch the Super Bowl because I don't give a shit, but like I'll usually watch the halftime show.
Yeah, same.
And I thought they were both so great.
Yeah, we just had different takeaways.
Yeah.
I don't think like with her music, it's the same for me as the Doors. It doesn't just.
No?
No. Wouldn't it be great though if they, well, who's still alive? Is Robbie still alive? I think the drummer and the guitarist are still alive. I think
so.
It's, yeah, Ray and Jim are gone. Yeah. They can do like they do with ABBA. They put them on a stage and then have them be holograms performing.
Yeah,
I'd see that, but they'd have to make Jim like have a meltdown at some point. Like, fuck you all, you're all a bunch of wimps.
they could do it.
Yeah,
they could do it. Halftime reminded me a little bit of the Beyonce documentary Homecoming. And Homecoming is amazing.
Yeah, I was gonna say no, it's not for me.
Like,
I mean, I love Homecoming. I think it's way more interesting.
Like watching Homecoming has turned into like my Thanksgiving tradition, where like
Right.
I watch Homecoming on Thanksgiving at some point, because I just think it's so great and she's so great and it gives you great insight into Beyonce and how she works and how she thinks. And I think Jennifer Lopez wanted Halftime to be her homecoming.
Yeah.
But because she kind of shits on Shakira, she doesn't come across as well to me. But
Right.
I still thought it was interesting and I was glad I watched it. This was a long one, by the way.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we're gonna have to wrap this up.
Yeah, let's
soon.
wrap it up. Margot,
I'm getting
where can
tired.
people find you on the internet?
You can find me at Brooklyn Fit Chick for Twitter and Instagram, and my TikTok is at Margot Donahue. I will post a couple of clips from the movie there, and my other show, if you want to check it out, is Not Fade Away. And I did an episode about Jim Morrison, and I really dork out about him.
Yeah, you did too. Actually, you did one about just his poetry too.
Right. I interviewed an author that was a big fan of his poetry. You're right.
Yeah, so everybody should go check that out. You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram and sometimes Facebook, but not that often. If you like the sound of our voices, you can also check out What a Creep, where we talk about creeps of the past and the present, and then we end every episode with someone who's not a creep. The episode out right now is Scott Baio.
It's getting a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
People like it.
Yeah. Joni, she didn't really love Chachi that much.
Nobody did.
Yeah,
Nobody
fuck him.
does.
If you want to leave us a review on iTunes, that would be fabulous. And we'll give you a shout out on the show. Email us at dorkingoutshow@gmail.com. If you would like some stickers, we could send them to you. We take requests. You can email us requests. And you can also find us at Dorking Out Show on Twitter and dorkingoutshow.com. This was super fun. I'm really glad we decided to do the Doors. I'm serious. This has been on the list since you joined
the beginning.
Yeah, since you joined the show, we were going to talk about the Doors. So I'm glad we did it. And thank you, Margot, for like all the extra insight into Jim Morrison. You're laughing like I'm joking. I'm super serious. Like, it just crystallizes for me why I'm always so mixed on this movie, because it's missing these key things that I need. So thank you.
Well, break on through to the other side, Sonia. That's all I can say.
Do I need exact change?